Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I am Wisa from Footmex Nation. This is an all-on podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. Want to welcome you to this great Monday night. I like to call Monday Night Football here. And a Monday night before a Mexico game. It feels good. Even though we had some Mexico games at the end of the year, it was kind of like, they weren't real Mexico games for some reason. This feels like a Mexico game. Like, you're excited. You're going to see not only we have a new coach, we got all the players coming from Europe, some of here in the U.S. We got some great call-ups. Everyone's getting excited. We have the great atmosphere. It's going to be fun. We're going to spend a couple of, more than a couple. We're going to spend some time talking about the Mexico game today, and a little about Liga MX, Mexicans abroad. But first, we're going to go into the question and say hello to our experts, our guests for tonight. And the question is, let's start with predictions right away. Put you on the spot. Kari and Tom, we'll start Miss Kari there in Dallas. Kari, how are you? And give us straight out prediction for this game before we even talk about why. Pero ¿cómo estás?
I'm good, Tom. I'm good. Tom and Wiso, how are you guys? My prediction, since I'm the very optimistic person, I am going with a 2-1 Mexico.
2-1 Mexico. All right, against Chile. Kari does a lot of great videos here at Footmex Nation. You're going to see some coming up. Had a great predictions during last season Liga MX. Did some great videos for the World Cup with Footmex Nation. So we're going to see Kari again now that Mexico games start. So be on the lookout for that. Kari, she says 2-1 already against Chile, who's always had that little thing in the background with the old Santa Clara Boda Roja, if we like to call it, the red wedding, our Mexico's red wedding. But who else to talk about? Mr. Tom Marshall in Guadalajara, who I'm sure will be making his way to San Diego pretty soon. We can't get any video for him. He says that you can't see him today. It's exclusive audio only for Tom.
I've got a new look coming, but I got to keep it under wraps for now. It's going to be a big surprise when I get to San Diego.
There it is. Tom Marshall has a new look. He didn't want to debut. I'm told it's a little better than the Chicharito and Tecatito and Layun right before the World Cup. But Tom, our producer Amy wants to know your prediction.
Prediction 1-1.
Okay.
I think Mexico are going to be motivated. I think obviously the European players back together for the first time since the World Cup. So I think there'll be a good atmosphere. I think they'll be happy to see each other. But let's not forget that Chile is preparing for a Copa America, coming in with a strong squad as well, and they're not going to be a walkover. They've got a strong team, and this is also their last. This is their last international break before their players get chosen for the Copa America squad. So we have to look at the other side, and the other side is that Chile, and then after that Paraguay, two teams that are full of players fighting for their spots, and managers looking to kind of hone in and plan as much as possible before what should be a really good Copa America in the summer.
Yeah, and as we're seeing that, we're gonna something that we noticed last year was we're going to be, especially for these friendly games that are put together in the U.S., we're seeing more and more of these CONMEBOL types of teams that we're playing in Chile, who was, like I said, in the back of our minds, there's that game in Santa Clara that kind of sticks out, and obviously that there was an opportunity for that revenge supposedly, but now it's a different team. It's a different coach, different year, and for some reason I'm a little more optimistic. So we'll see how that goes. I like Kari's 2-1. Well, we'll jump in there. For those of you guys that are on the chat, let us know right now what your prediction is. Tell us what you're thinking, especially when it comes to the first game of Tata Martino, and already have the Cubs. We'll be reading them on there. So we'll see on that. Let's just jump right in. As far as you guys talked about the call-ups on Monday, and you saw the people that as far as the players, what's most important to you, Kari, for this game? Obviously the score, we want to see a goal, but to you, what's the most important thing for these games aside winning and getting that result?
I think what's important to me is, since we do have a new coach, kind of like a clean canvas, you know, so I really want a defined style of play. That's the most importantly, like, how are we going to play? And I think this goes into long term. Like, if we start molding how Tata wants to play as of right now, then it just gives us more expectations, kind of get an idea of like, okay, this is how he wants to play. You know, just thinking of Qatar, you know, long term. So, you know, from the call up, I think, you know, some important players. I think the area that he needs to focus more on is defensively. I think that's where we are kind of like iffy. Up in the attack, I think we're totally fine. Just how the Europeos have, you know, been pretty good consistently, have been showing out, been the topic of discussion of everybody around the world. So I think for me, most importantly, from these games, is just getting a defined style of play, how he wants to play with the players that he has. Because if it all depends of, you know, what players do you have, and if do they mold into how you want to play on the field? Does this player execute it well? You know, so that's just my thing.
Tom, to you, when you are, you know, it's the first game for Tri, but it feels like there isn't a lot of time between now and the Gold Cup. And although, you know, the first game, you kind of want to see players, you're looking at 2 games coming up. Normally with, you know, with Osorio and past coaches, we would see maybe a split lineup. How do you see, as far as the sense of urgency to try to get a starting 11 from Tata Martino? Or do you believe that he's going to take some time because there's only really few games before the Gold Cup and it's time to start?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think it is an issue. I do think he's going to play a lot of the players, though. I mean, you know, he's called up 29, which is a lot. I mean, and I think the reason is because it's the last. You know, he's the only time he's going to be able to see these players before the Gold Cup. So yeah, he obviously wants to look at them on the training ground, and then obviously over the 2 games. So I do think most of them will see minutes. But yeah, you know, there's loads of questions. I mean, you know, Carey with the style of play, I think that's, you know, you want to see, okay, you know, is it going to be a 4-3-3? Is he going to, you know, come with a 3-5-2 like he did, you know, or 2 potential, and, you know, get Raul and Chicharito playing together? I mean, you know, I think those are some of the issues, like on the field, but I think off it as well. I think it's going to be, it's important to set the tone. And I think this being the first meetup, it does kind of, you know, it is important that you start off on the right foot off the field as well. And obviously, you know, let's not forget that the last time the Mexican national team got together, not only did results not go well with the 2-0 defeats in Argentina, but I mean, it was a mess. I mean, you had Guillermo Ochoa coming out saying that, you know, that there's no direction in the national team, that, you know, that people in Mexico need to open their eyes, and that, you know, we need more players in Europe. So, I mean, there's definitely a feeling that, you know, those Europe-based players weren't happy. So, you know, how's Martino going to treat them? What's going to be the message from Martino to them? And what's going to be the message from them to Martino and everybody else? I think that's going to be kind of fascinating to see, because, you know, there are still lingering issues from the last World Cup, which I think need to be kind of put behind the Mexican national team now, and you know, I think it's important to, you know, clean slate and then move on, and I think this is the opportunity now this week.
Yeah, and I mean, for those of you that don't know, there was some things that are coming out after the World Cup with some of the Europeans not happy with money being paid, bonuses or contracts or things like that, which you obviously didn't see some of those European-based players. I don't know if it's accept the call-up, but at least not participate during the other games that we saw. And, you know, Guillermo Ochoa saying that, we see that. So it's important to see, I guess, the balance that we're gonna be seeing in these games. Especially, I would say, how good, and Cari mentioned this, how good, you know, our strikers are doing. Irving Lozano, Raul Jimenez, Chicharito Hernandez, Tecatito, you know, even Hector Herrera coming up in the front. You know, you're starting to see those players. I think it's a good problem to have, but I'm excited to finally look at what this El Tri is going to look like. Really quick on the chat before I ask you guys another question. It's the question of the night. 3-2, Lou says Chile wins. 3-1, Mexico. Chucky scores in second. Jimenez finishes them off with Carlos Coluna Navarro. And Louis also said 7-0 just to be funny, I hope. Francisco Velasco 2-1, Mexico wins. So everyone's a little bit optimistic of this. Lainez will score. We're seeing that at least people are starting to come back and get that feeling of the Mexican national team. Kari, when you're looking at at least the starting 11, and you kind of mentioned that, I kind of mentioned the problems that maybe Tata will have to see who's starting up, and there's obviously 2 games, 29 players called. Are there any players in that lineup that you're like, I definitely want to see maybe 2 types of players paired up in Tata's system, or anyone that sticks out that you want to see in these types of games?
It's a good question. I didn't think about it.
That's what I do.
You just throw it at me.
Everyone knows it's the reunification of Gallito Vasquez and Luis Montes, no?
I'm gonna say
it's true. And we hey, you guys found out Gullit finally signed with a team, but that's on the side, right?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Let me go with Tom first. Come back to me.
Think about it, and we'll come back to that. For me, I want to see what's up front. I want to see what he does with Chicharito. Is he a start? He's coming as a sub. Do we keep eating Lozano and Raul? Because as much as Chicharito scored only 2, in the last 2-3 weeks, I think 8 goals he has so far. It's Jimenez who's on fire. Is Irving Lozano is in the type of season that he have. Is this a time where we would see Chicharito start from the bench, or does he find a way to put all 3 of them in there? And we have this. But Tom, same question to you. Are there players that you just kind of want to see, want to make sure to get some time in this? Obviously 29 players, they're not all going to get to play.
No, and I think it's quite...
maybe they can.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think... how we got to look at this is that in the short term, Tata Martino is preparing for the Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've got to bear that in mind, because this isn't kind of a Tata Martino who is, wiping the slate, getting rid of a load of players and, a sudden generational change. I mean, I think he knows, and I think he's a bright guy. He's been at Barca, he's been at Argentina. He knows that this Gold Cup is actually pretty important. If Mexico haven't won anything since 2015 CONCACAF Cup, and some would argue that isn't the biggest trophy in the world, but it's important for him to get a good start, and so I think for that reason, it's like, I think basically you look at 19 or 20 of the players are already taken. I honestly think that. Yeah. I don't think there's many. I think it's going to be basically the World Cup squad, or a squad very similar to the World Cup. So for that reason, I think, you look at the younger players, specifically the ones that are eligible for, the 2020 Olympics, and a couple of them that are eligible for the under-20s World Cup at the end of May, June. And you think, those players, I think they need to do something. So, Jorge Sanchez, Cesar Montes, Carlos Rodriguez, who has been absolutely superb this season, and just about qualifies for the Olympic squad by about 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. Even Diego Lainez, Alexis Vega, Roberto Alvarado. I mean, those players, I think, they need to show something this camp, and pretty quickly. But then there's the other ones as well. Gallito Vasquez, he's going to want to, do something. Luis Montes, Victor Guzman, Pizarro even, and Isaac Brizuela. I mean, if you were going to project the squad right now, those guys potentially would be missing out.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, we've got Hector Herrera to come back in, he's obviously injured. So, I think that's the group of players that I feel have something to prove, because they're not necessarily established at international level, whereas the rest of the players kind of are. You kind of know what you're going to get with the Chicharito, Guardado. I mean, it's not like, let's bring him in and test him. You know what you're getting with the players. It's those younger ones for me that I think are more under the microscope.
And you when you're trying to set up, because I was like, okay, what starting 11? And I don't want to use World Cup, but I mean, you're going to have to do that, because this is where it's that. Yeah, we want to see new players who are going to get us in the, in a few years, and we started giving them that opportunity. But as much as people don't want to think about this Gold Cup coming up to a coach, to the players, it is very important to them. Maybe not to you as a fan. Well, what do we win? It's not really to come. But I'll tell you this: Mexico loses this Gold Cup, and as a fan, I'm sure you're going to care, because if it doesn't matter, then you wouldn't care if they lose it or not, right? You definitely want to win. If it's Mexico U.S. in the final, you'll start caring pretty soon. Kadi, you've had some time to think about.
In regards to the call-up, I think I'm never going to be happy with it, just to be honest. I think there's always going to be players that, to me, when there's even a call-up for every friendly, you should always call the best players that are currently in La Liga MX, apart from the Europeos, because we know they're all coming. But I do think Tom has a good point. For me, interest is Montes, because I think I've been eyeing him for a while, and I'm like, man, why doesn't he get called up? He's young, he's good. He's been doing really well in Monterrey, just been on the, low on the radar. Giving him opportunity. I think Vega, I'm pretty excited about also. Piojo Alvarado. No, you said no. You know me. I think he deserves a chance. But definitely what Tom said. I think there's players that we should just give them the opportunity, even just to be maybe a backup to a player that we already know it's going to be there. Like Hector Moreno, I don't know. To me, obviously we know because of the name and, his experience, probably going to start. I would rather have someone else start over him. Diego Reyes as well. So I'm just interested to see what he's going to do.
What he's going to bring up.
Yeah.
Tom, 5 days almost of training before the game. People are arriving on Sunday. There's already a closed training in Chula Vista, which is completely super far away from San Diego, by the way. I made that drive. And, already starting with practice, I don't remember a coach getting that much time before a game. And then, I know it's 2 games and, it's Tuesday, maybe not between the games. But to you, as far as practice, there isn't a lot of access that they're giving the, as far as us and the media. But him coming in brand new, some of the players also said that they haven't really spoken. What's the one thing that you would say that, that Tata Martino needs to accomplish with these players in his first 2 call-up?
No, I just think getting them on side, but I'm sure they're going to be. I don't think it's going to be that difficult. I think Tata Martino, arguably one of his greatest strengths is his ability to create, union within the team. He's done it. He did it with Argentina, and we've seen what a mess that kind of dressing room's been since then. He had obviously other problems with Argentina, but I don't think like the dressing room. I think the dressing room supported him. So yeah, I'd say. What do I want to see? A team that goes out and attacks. I just think the players are on board. They're playing for the national team. They've had the European-based players have had the break from the call-ups. I think they'll be refreshed. And at the end of the day, they're all gonna be want to fight for the places. I do think the challenge is on for the younger players. The ones I just mentioned there. Obviously they're projected to at some point in the next 4 years start to pick off the players above them and become regular starters, but it's up to them as well. They have to take the opportunity, and I think these 4 days before the first game, it's their time to make a big impression for Martino. I would say as well, it's also interesting that we're talking about the first team, but the under-22s are also in camp. I believe they're going over to Europe, if I'm not mistaken, for a couple of games. You got the under-20s as well, who I think are also in Europe for playing games as well. So I think one of the other things that we're seeing so far this year and since Martino's appointment is that there seems to be a lot more structure and a lot more integration between the full national team and then Jaime Lozano, the under-22 manager, and then obviously the under-20s, because you got a player like Jonathan Gonzalez now with the under-20s. You got a couple of players in, Eric Aguirre is in the under-22s. You got players that previously have been in the first team now kind of dropping down a bit, and I think that's natural. I think it's good as well. But yeah, I think it's it's worth pointing that out as well, that it does look like it's going in the right direction in terms of players being able to move up and down and seeing the path to that full national team squad.
Really quick before we finish this segment, Gotti and to Tom, what does your up front look like as far as starters? Who you would want to see, and is that match? Do you think what Tantino's going to bring, Gotti?
Strikers? You're talking about strikers?
Yeah, just up front. Maybe
Um,
up front, maybe.
Jimenez and Chicha.
Jimenez and
Probably.
Chicha.
Jimenez is fantastic. I mean, I would just leave him up there by himself, honestly. I mean,
Forget 11 players.
forget the 11 players. Can we
Have
just
that.
duplicate? Can we just clone Jimenez? He's been on fire. Even leaving him in Punta, I'd love to see that. So if not, then it'd be Chicha and Jimenez duo up top.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's worth pointing out. I mean, you look at the group of players that Mexico got, forwards now, and it's genuinely exciting. I mean, obviously Raul Jimenez has got all the headlines, and quite rightly so, because it's been his breakthrough season. But let's not forget someone like Chicharito, who 6 months before the World Cup, 9 months before the World Cup, he was projected as being the starter. In Russia, and then obviously he had a bit of a dip, and he had problems off the field, and I don't know, it was just a mess with him. So he's back though now. I mean, he played really well last weekend again, and it boosts because someone like Tecatito can have a big impact on the next World Cup, no doubt. I mean, it's a kid he's got the talent to be a top player still, and he's at a good age still. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't write out Tecatito, who seemed to kind of moved on, but yeah, and then obviously you've got Lozano, who's also scored this past weekend, and then you've got kind of Lainez, who what role is he going to play? So yeah, I think there's plenty of issues, but I think there's plenty of options, and I think it's basically, I'm not really too bothered who plays. I think he's going to mix the minutes around. I don't think he's going to give us definitive answers right now about what his favoured kind of front line is going to be. If he plays a 4-3-3, I think he's going to play Raul one game and then Chicharito the next, and he's going to completely avoid controversy, and he's going to say, look, these guys have come from Europe. I'm just giving them one game each, and that's it. I mean, I think he's going to avoid controversy as much as he can. So yeah, no, but I mean, in general, I think it's a really good forward line, and that's without Carlos Vela, who is in that mix as one of the most informed Mexican players. I mean, what is it? 3 assists and 3 goals in his last 2 games. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, and he's only 2 hours away in Los Angeles. So I mean, that's another issue. For me, it's another issue. Nobody's come out and explained why Vela hasn't, why he's not joined the squad. I mean, the word is that he's not kind of turned down the call up, but Martino just decided that, he knew enough about him. But for me, that seems extremely weird because, there's other players that we kind of know all about and that they're there, like Jonathan Dos Santos. It's like Tata Martino's already worked with him. So what's the point in bringing him? If that's the mentality, that's what I'm saying. If that's the mentality, then why is Vela not there? Why is Vela staying back in LA and then Jonathan Dos Santos comes to the national team?
Could it be another one of those? Vela just wants to focus on LAFC type of, Vela. If he's not 100% with the national team, he's okay saying no.
For sure, yeah. For sure, but I mean, I think Martino isn't gonna. Well, I would have thought that Martino's not going to accept any messing around.
Yeah,
he's going to be very black and white with that, and I think he has been so far. He's like, look, I'm not here to go and convince anybody to come to this team. If you don't want to be in the team, don't be in the team. You know what I mean? Simple as that. But if you come and I expect everybody to want to come, and once you do accept, then you've got to give absolutely everything. So I mean, we'll see how it plays out. It is a weird one though, because this was an easy call up for Vela to come.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a 2-hour drive away. I mean, it's just like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
like why is he not there? So I think that's going to be a question that's going to be asked. And I know Herrera's not there, but Herrera came out and explained, and sometimes from kind of the PR side point of view, I don't get the Mexican national team one bit. I mean, this week I think already they've been very, very closed. The players were asked not to speak at the airport. I think the media were allowed in for a very short amount of time today, just to take a little bit of video, and then that was it. And then nobody's going to actually speak to the media until Thursday, which is sometimes how it goes with Mexico. But it is sometimes. Why not just put a line out about why Vela's not called up, like Herrera did? Herrera, after that game the other week, he said, "Look, I'm not going to be the national team. I'm sorting out my Portuguese passport," and everyone's like, "Okay, fully understandable." Move on. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, but imagine if Herrera hadn't said anything, we'd still be talking about it. Oh, Herrera, the party before the World Cup. Is he going to stop coming now? Is that it for Herrera? And
the new face. Gotta do that. I go the new face. I want to mess it up. I don't want to travel. God. Yeah. No, and I get it. I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you on the same thing. It's like, why not even talk about it? Why not even say, Vela's working on this, or Vela decided not to come because he's this, or we've seen what he can do. I want to see other players, although we would still be like, okay, but you bring other players.
He's just never going to make anybody happy if he answers or doesn't answer, because the Mexican media loves the drama, likes the novela, and like Tom would have said, if Herrera wouldn't have said why, we would definitely be like, oh my God, really? Why? Why doesn't he come? He doesn't want to come anymore? And you just don't know if it's better to talk or not talk,
That's true.
Yeah. It's a shame, though. It is a shame, because you want to, you imagine you put Vela in that mix of forwards as well, and all of a sudden it's like, that is, that, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really excited about the, Mexico's forward line right now. I just think, you've got players on the rise. You've got players kind of in the form of their lives. You've got an experienced head like Chicharito that, people in Mexico criticize him, but I mean, this guy's the highest ever doing it. I mean, he is what he is. I mean, he's not Messi either, but he's such a good player and such a good asset still that as a forward unit, it is, it looks good for the next few years for Mexico.
Well, it's a good segue to go into really quick on the Mexicans abroad. Well, we'll see what happens in the game, and hopefully we get that answered at least, or at least I would like to hear what Tata Martino would have to say. I could see you asking him, Tom, and him going, I want to talk about the players that are here. And so that's exactly what he's going to say. And we're not going to get our answers. And then it'll come out through friends of players that, whatever the reason is. Or, I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of like Vela. It's definitely up in the air. But I could definitely see him still be not happy about what happened. I think something happened with some of the players being upset at the FMF and Vela saying, I don't need it. It's like, wait, even though it's 2 hours away. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke briefly.
I'm making that drive.
Yeah, I spoke briefly to Jonathan Dos Santos the other day, and I mean, I don't know. Like, obviously, his brother has left the club. It's been a terrible time for Giovanni, but Jonathan will still have a chat. You know what I mean? And he was very positive. And it wasn't actually about the national team, but I don't know. He was just, and that, I don't know. It's good for him to do that. You know what I mean? Whereas sometimes with Vela and certain other players, it's just like, I don't know. It's just it becomes a bit of an issue, and we'll see how the Mexican press react as well to to not be given very, very little access, because guaranteed, those guys that go on TV, those guys, to be fair, work really hard. I mean, they get up at like 5 a.m. They're doing the live hits all day, and sometimes they go to bed at like 1, 2. You know what I mean? But when you're on TV, it's not like me where you just you write something. It's like you're on TV live. You better give him some information. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you're not, when you're so far from the camp, when you're not allowed to speak to people, then all of a sudden, what are you going to talk about? And I sometimes think they don't manage that PR side of the national team very well.
We'll see how it goes. Mexicans abroad, really quick to you guys. I'm still trying to find another weekend that more goals were scored on by Mexicans abroad. So if anyone out there has a weekend where this many goals were scored, and I'm counting, these are players outside of Mexico. So yes, U.S. MLS players count. For some reason, people keep saying that they're not Mexicans abroad, but they are. I'm thinking about. I love records and I love stats, but I couldn't really think of anything. I used to keep track on a spreadsheet, and I kind of gave up after the World Cup. So yeah, if you think of another weekend that there are more Mexican abroad scoring than the last weekend, let me know. I would like to know. But great weekend with. I wanted to kind of bring it up, and you touched on it already, Tom. Chicharito. I know people have given up. Oh, bring in the new, but not because people have accused me of being this, Chicharito lover. Like everything he does is gold, or whatever. But the guy's scoring two very important goals over the weekend, and at the time that you think that this guy's given up, or okay, he's gone. Like we've known Gio's been Gio for a while, right? And people are trying to categorize almost Chicharito in that sense. But what he's done, other players even saying he's up there. I think, Tecatito tweeting about his accomplishments. Rafa Marquez giving an interview and saying that, he could be the third best Mexican player ever. And kind of saying that, what he's done, no one has accomplished also. And he's definitely up there in the talks of the Rafa and Hugo and everything. But Chicharito coming in fine form only helps the national team. And this is a guy that when you're giving him minutes, he's not going to let you down. So great that he's coming in right now in the form that he's coming in. But why is it, and to you, Kari and Tom, and I'll start with you, Kari, why is it that fans and most people are just kind of like off and turned off by Chicharito all of a sudden? Like
I think just because his dip from Bayer Leverkusen to West Ham, because we all were excited to have him back in the Premier League, and we're like, oh yeah, remembering the times where he was in Man U and left a mark, and now seeing back in EPL, we were all excited, and I think things didn't go as well as soon as he came back. So I think that's what a lot of people kind of questioned his quality and stuff like that, but stuff that he couldn't control and stuff that maybe he should have worked on, and he did, but there's only so much you can do. But Chicharito is just a great. I really love him. I think he is a great Mexican that sets the bar high for a lot of people, just like JJ Macias did over the weekend. He was like, saying he's one of his idols and hopes to be like him and hopefully play in Europe soon and just leave his mark in Europe like he's done. I think Chicharito definitely developed more in Real Madrid, not because I'm a Real Madrid fan, but if you take a look at how much he grew that year, just his footwork, and he was just more than a striker. He actually, created plays, and he definitely grew there in that aspect too. And with Bayer Leverkusen, because that's why I really loved his era a lot, he was great. So I think people tend to forget what Chicharito did, and we shouldn't forget, So we should just praise him, because at the end of the day, if someone thinks about the Mexican national team, it's either Chicharito, a lot of people, Memo, he's one of the few players that in this time they'll get mentioned because of that.
Tom, to you, situation, Chicharito coming in form. I mean, how many, even if he continues, the question would be, how many more years does he have with the national team?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got another World Cup, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always room for somebody with his goal scoring ability off the bench, in his experience. I mean, it's just, I think the thing for Chicharito, like, Kari there, obviously right saying about, everything he's achieved, but I think the question mark with Chicharito is more off the field now. What is his role? What's his role within this squad? And I think it's actually an issue Tata Martino is going to have to find an answer for, because Chicharito has had, kind of, it's not been an easy relationship with the Mexican press, with the, with Mexico in a way. You know what I mean? Because when he talks about the country, he clearly loves Mexico, but he also kind of, there's something that doesn't sit right with the criticism and the way he's viewed, if you know what I mean. He's very much a middle-class Mexican from, he's well-educated, and I don't know. I think that kind of, I don't know, it shouldn't, obviously, but I think it kind of causes a bit of friction in some circles. The same with Miguel Layún as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but I think that's important. I mean, I think the ideal is that Chicharito becomes the absolute or one of this squad moving forward, that he strikes up a really positive relationship Tata Martino. You know, and he becomes, you know, a figure in these next 4 years because, you know, like Kari was saying, you know, when you talk about greatest ever Mexican players, you know, Chicharito is going to be up there in the equation.
And in 18 years, we're gonna have a little Chicharito because it's a boy. If you didn't see over the weekend that he had a little reveal party. So we'll continue with the.
Imagine him born in England as well. So it'll be like, and I think his girlfriend's Australian.
There it is.
It's like he's gonna have 3 countries.
3 countries fighting for him. Oh, interesting to see. The other I can't meant to mention, you know, Raul Jimenez right now having a time. I know we went over it, but how important was that win, you know, and his goal? And I'm listening, you know, when I stupid me, I was like, yeah, I'll find a stream a little later. I fell asleep. I really wanted to watch the game, and and I was like, I'll take a quick nap and then I'll find the stream. And no, it didn't happen. But watching that goal, Raul Jimenez's goal, and everyone's just like, okay, it's dead. He's not going to get it. And the way he comes back and throws it, Raul Jimenez, and we know we've mentioned it, he's going to have an amazing, amazing time. But when you see him, especially, you know, being interviewed, how much fun he's having, but at the same time, how much, you know, the fans and everything, the whole buzz around this kid, you know, even stats, the people in England that are putting up about, you know, what he's done in his first year in the EPL and in his goal count, and everybody's kind of, you know, having that. And then seeing what, you know, the Wolves, he's a big part of what everyone's talking about, the Wolves in England. But to you, you know, summarizing what Raul is doing, and although we talk about it every Monday, but this weekend was a lot more special.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a historic goal. I mean, I think it's the first time in many years that Wolves have been, you know, got to a semi-final of the FA Cup, playing against Manchester United. Everyone's watching. It's the biggest Wolves game in, you know, in many years. And then Raul Jimenez is the one who puts you in front. So, yeah, he's adapted extremely well. I've been surprised, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it would go so well. It's clear he's sky high. But he seems to be keeping his feet on the ground as well. He's not kind of trying ridiculous stuff. He's kind of keeping it simple, which is really good. But I mean, he's 27 years old, so it's not like a 20-year-old kid. You know, he's starting to get into his prime now. So, but yeah, I mean, the other question that it kind of throws out there for me is, and there's no real answer, but you know, if Raul went from, you know, not really making it Atletico Madrid. At Benfica, okay, his goals to minute ratio was quite good, but he couldn't earn a starting spot. And I just think, and then he moves to the Premier League, you know, to a club which is 7th in the league, you know, outside the top 6. Wolves is, you know, the best. It just raises the question for me, like, which other Mexican players are we overlooking? Because I basically thought with Raul at Benfica, I thought, man, I mean, if he can't get in Benfica, I don't know what the next step is. You know what I mean? So he's obviously proven me wrong. But you know, which other Mexican players are out there that could actually make that step up, given the right situation? Because Raul Jimenez has got a manager who obviously wanted it. You know, Nuno Espiritu Santo, you know, asked for him. You know, the system that they play is very much into his style. So you know, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting to kind of wonder out loud which other Mexican players are around that could, given the right system, really make an impact in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, it's something. I mean, growing up, saying that even not only Mexicans but Latinos or you know, in the EPL, especially Mexican players, that it doesn't suit Mexican players. And then we saw, you know, Borghetti, Chicharito breaking that back in the day, Guille Franco. With the Hammers, you know, and there was, you know, statistics out there that it was kind of hard, especially in that style of play. Not that the Mexican players have evolved, and you're seeing that a little more often. It's like that's where we're aiming, not necessarily other leagues, but getting more players. You know, Chucky Lozano, for example, would love to see him in the EPL, and we're looking at to see how it goes. So, interesting question, and we'll see where he goes from there. I think it's historic what he's doing with a great team, and it's awesome that we're on the receiving end as far as Mexican. So, all right, more. I mean, we can talk about Mexican broads all on the whole show. And I know some of you on the chat said, "Lisa, why are you only doing it for an hour?" So wish we could do it, but you can always listen to our friends in the Our Football podcast, Amy and also Adriana, who at the end of the week, they also have an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican soccer, including the ladies' game and the football femenil there. I know Kari was part of it, too. It's just a great podcast. If you want more of the Mexican soccer, it's definitely recommended. Let's move on to Liga MX. Lots of people on the chat. Lots of you listened to our show last Monday. In fact, it's been a show, almost 1,000 of you guys on YouTube, and I know over 1,000 or 2,000. We're looking at the stats on iTunes. Thank you, all of you guys that spend some time with us, and I know that we really appreciate it. But I wanted to let you guys know, really quick plug. We do have a Patreon page that you can definitely help us out. Go on, we'll tweet out the link. Last year we had a great little Patreon page where we had, I know Cesar and Naive and Tom did a great podcast. Amy and I kind of took over towards the end, and we decided we were going to stop our Patreon page. But many of you guys wrote to us, what are ways that you guys can help us out, contribute. It's been since I think 2011 when the first starts of this podcast. We've never said, hey, we want to make money off of this or anything like that. But what we definitely want to do is continue to give the value, continue to make sure that we're giving you guys a good show. If you find it in your heart or in your wallet to help us out, there is a $2 option. It's just helping us out with the show. There's some mics that we like to get. There's stuff that, if we can maybe make some content for you guys at games. But it's help us out if you can. We're going to start doing some giveaways of Patreon. Nuestros patrones, like we like to say it. We'll pull out all the people that are part of our Patreon page, and we'll start giving out some cool giveaways that we'll start getting. So if you want to help us out, if you listen to us on Monday and you want to say, hey, I want to help you guys out in any way you can, not mandatory, of course. We won't put this on a paid subscription or anything like that. Let us know. Patreon, Mexican Soccer Show. We'll put the link on there. It's a really easy system. I think it's $2. And it goes on a reoccurring payment every month, and you can stop it at any time. The minute that you don't like what I'm saying, you're like, you know what, you love Chicho way too much, or we're sick and tired of you putting Leon pictures up when they're in first place. All right, guys, thank you for that. We'll jump into Liga MX. Continuing, lots of chat on there on the YouTube chat. Everyone's kind of fighting about is Mexico still relevant? Chicha's still relevant, so. Fun stuff. But let's talk Liga MX. We won't get into the León discussion just yet because we had a Clásico Nacional that, for better or worse, it's kind of was like, we saw it earlier in the week, but let's talk about this weekend. América 2-0 win. Many people are already calling for Cardoso's, to be gone. I didn't see anywhere after that 1-0. And then worse, when that red card came, Chivas having any answer whatsoever. America continued to be dominant in this Clásico. But to you, Kari, watching the Clásico, it almost feels like it's kind of like my dad told me. It just is, the intensity is not there anymore. But then I realized, then all of a sudden they play again and it's amazing. It's like so. So to you, Kari, what did you think of the Clásico Nacional? And what are your thoughts on it?
I have many thoughts. I think definitely in the Copa MX, it was an interesting Clásico because we all knew if it was 0-0, they go to penalties and, kind of the intensity of who would win that one. And I think I really question a lot about Chivas in the Copa MX game. Questioning Cardoso because of Dieter, which was the only player that was actually giving him effectivity on the field, and he subbed in Conejo, but to me, Conejo should have started, and we all know how that ended, and Chivas ended up being eliminated. And then on the weekend, I would thought that Chivas would have bounced back at home, especially. And it was just a crazy game. Obviously, at the beginning of the week, we saw how everybody kind of, the chaotic, at those we had Chivas was, and then both were responding. And obviously, that kind of hypes up the Clásico, setting the tone for the mood. But I think after the initial loss in Copa MX, a lot of Chivas fans were kind of like, you know what, we just might as well just lose and see if that's what it takes to get Cardoso out. Because I think this season Cardoso has not found functionality in the players that he attained, because I think he got really great players for Chivas. Mier, Molina, you got Vega, you got Dieter, you got, all these great players. It's just like, how are you going to produce it on the field? And I don't think he's done really good at, doing that on the field. And that's when I was questioning, like, why is Vega coming off? Obviously, yeah, he did have a yellow, and it's kind of like, can't you tell your player to like calm down? I think that's where maybe authority is not established between maybe the players and the coach, and then he took Vega off, and then Molina got red carded, and it's kind of just everything went down the drain there. But I do say this: I don't think, even if America won, I don't think it establishes the tone for them as the season. Why? Because I don't think they've been really consistent since the beginning till now. I think I've really have questioned America after they became campeones.
Yeah.
If how effectively have they been doing, if they are producing the quality they are in their players. I don't think Nico Castillo has done as much as everybody has been hyped them up to. Neither does Benedetti. So I have a lot of questions over America. Just because they won the 2 Clásicos doesn't mean they are a great team and then gonna, a contender to win La Liga. I don't think so. I haven't seen much of them. For Chivas, it's a sad situation. I thought Cardoso was going to leave the next day, and it turns out he is still there. So I don't know. It was a weird Clásico, let's put it that way.
So one of the first Classico that I'm like, one more goal, and I'm gonna go watch Captain Marvel. Like that's what I wanted to watch, but I didn't get to do that. I was like, no, I'll watch him with that. Tom, you were at the game, Stadio Kron.
Yeah.
Akron. There, the atmosphere, from your tweets, from your Facebook, Instagram. By the way, make sure you follow Tom on Instagram. It's great stories.
A lot of.
I mean, that's the great part of going to Classico Nacional is being at the game. Like you, at least you get the atmosphere on that. The game might not be as great, but you get to see the people around and everything. Yeah, and
it's I've said it before. Worth pointing out though, the way the fans kind of sit together beforehand, have the carne asada, get the tequila out, play the music, do like the tailgating and all that. I mean, it's you can't get that in a Boca River. Obviously, we saw that. But you can't get that in a Manchester United Liverpool. It just would never ever happen. It would be crazy to think it even could happen. So that is
that a good or a bad thing though? Like people are like, well, the rivalry is kind of
the rivalry's there, but I mean, it doesn't mean you can't sit and have a beer before and after. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's absolutely great. I mean, the banter going back and forth, and I don't know. You're always going to get incidents, but in general, the atmosphere was absolutely amazing. I don't know. I mean, I disagree with Carrie a bit. I think America are just a step up from Chivas right now. I think the squad's better. I think the starting 11's better. I do agree that Cardoso, some of his decisions. I mean, 100% with Vega. I mean, that really backfired after Molina went off and Pulido got injured. I mean, within the space of 15 minutes or whatever it was. 15 minutes from 30 minutes when he took Vega off till half time. He'd brought on Madrigal, who's done absolutely nothing so far for Chivas. So he's not even brought on Ronaldo Cisneros, who is actually looked dangerous and scored goals. So that's a strange decision after 30 minutes. I mean, Vega's not kind of some crazy guy who's like loses it and flies around at people. You know what I mean? He's like, just tell him to calm down.
Yeah.
But then Molina gets sent off.
Was it a good send off? It was maybe like
it was probably a bit.
It was a yellow to me.
A little high yellow, but I could see it. I mean, it's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean,
the ankle go down. I mean, he could have gotten hurt. You gotta avoid him.
If it's a yellow card, then nobody says anything. But once you watch the replay, I don't think the player can really complain. I mean, it's in a way a dangerous tackle. But I mean, I don't know. And I do think America now, off the back of these two, I don't know. I just think I think they're picking up confidence. I think they know how they want to play. The last 15 minutes wasn't great, to be honest. When Chivas kind of did have a couple of chances. But I don't know. I just look at the strength of the America team, and I think Jimenez is going to come back. If he can pick up form, I think Nico Castillo. He's not really played for the last 6 months, and he's just slowly getting better. And just that little bit of quality. The third minute, Ibarra, who's been absolutely sensational this season, even though America have been bad. Ibarra does his stuff down the wing, and he was just beating Chivas at will down the right wing. Crosses it in, and it's a really good diving header from Nico Castillo. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's why you pay the big money. I mean, for these big games, he's a big player. He's proven in Mexico. And I just think some of the Chivas signings, I don't know. I mean, I just think that the kind of good players that could be very good players, whereas I think some of the players America signed, America have, are just they're very good, and they've won the championship before. So I don't know. I feel like this Chivas squad, if you look at the team that beat Tigres 2 years ago, I think 8 of those players have now left. I mean, I'm not saying that all of them should still be there, but if you look at the players that have kind of replaced them, and you say, is this squad now what it was 2 years ago? And I think no. And I think the problem with Chivas is financial. I think they're trying to balance the bottom line, and because they're trying to do that, the squad has become weakened. They're trying to go for kind of bargains, and at the end of the day, Chivas is a big club, boasts 40 million fans. It's got a stadium that many teams in Europe would be envious of. You got to spend money. I mean, when you don't have good seasons, you got to go out there and spend money. And it just feels like, even with Cardoso now, it just feels like some of the player choices that they've made, even the choices to hire Cardoso, it feels like they're trying to cut corners and they're trying to cut money. You know what I mean? Whereas America, they basically won the championship in December, and they're pretty much now, at least as good, if not a stronger starting 11 with Nico Castillo.
Yeah.
Even though Lainez has gone out, and I just think that's what a big club does. Whereas Chivas are obviously in this kind of grey area now of really what kind of club it is. I mean, and what the direction is. That's what I don't really get right now from Chivas. I don't get where the club is heading.
It's like 2014, we started doing these, and you can come back like every year. It's like, I don't know where this Chivas is going. It's like the recurring theme of Chivas, and since we've been covering Liga MX, and then all of a sudden it surprises you. They're like, oh, they're going to get relegated, or all the drama. Oh, by the way, they win. That's Chivas. It's kind of gives you what Liga MX, taking away the Club de Cuervos stuff. It's like, that's Chivas, and it's like not even surprising. I wish Adriana was on with us, because I really would like to ask how she's feeling about Almeida and San Jose Earthquakes doing horrible, and Chivas now, and I'm sure.
I mean, I honestly believe with Almeida, I went to most of the games that title season, and the thing that stuck out was the atmosphere around the team. You know what I mean? It was just like you felt, and really like 10, 11 years, and really for the first time, you felt like, all right, this is what Chivas is about. You felt kind of the momentum, the machine, the kind of size of this kind of institution that just kind of takes over. When they were going for that title. But as much as Almeida I thought he was really good at building that hype and kind of just being charismatic and saying, look, we're a big club. We are legitimately a big club. We're going to try and win the title. We're not trying to avoid relegation. And I think a lot of people kind of forget it. They spent big money.
Yeah.
They spent big money to get that title. And it's not like, and they needed both those things. They needed a really good coach. They needed to spend money, and they needed to spend it on the right players. But if you look at the spending that happened then, the players, obviously Pulido at that moment, Brizuela, but Cota's left since then. And Orbelin Pineda, obviously, Gallito Vasquez, these players that were just kind of like, you could just, I don't know, I just felt they were more kind of stable at that point, and I don't know. But now I feel like they're going for players that aren't that top kind of echelon of Liga MX players. And when you're an all-Mexican club, then, you're unlikely to win titles doing that.
Yeah. And then that's the thing I remember saying before with Chivas was, they're in a disadvantage because all the they can't have any players that are not Mexican. And we even had discussions, should they open their doors? And I even said, I'm like, I don't see them winning a title soon. And then here comes Almeida and slaps me.
Don't get me wrong. I think they're a decent team. You know what I mean? I don't think they're a bad team. And I think we saw early in the season they were doing quite well. And then obviously they lose a few games. They can't break through. I think Querétaro at home. And then obviously the pressure comes on, and then then it becomes difficult. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it looks like Cardoso's staying till the end of the season. And then if they don't reach the playoffs, then there's gonna be some changes.
Yeah, I feel like they have the potential. They do have the potential. I just don't agree with how Cardoso thinks and the lineups and the subs. It's all so strange. It's like something different every single game. So I think, I don't know. To me, Chivas right now, it's a lost case. I understand everybody out there that goes for Chivas because I'm frustrated. And that's not even my team, but I feel like they have the potential, and it's just sad. It's like it's just sad. So,
the way I see it is, Chivas is a team. They need all those players to be at that on form. They need everybody firing, and if everyone's firing, then I think they can be a very good team, and they can make the playoffs and even make a run at the title. I hope that doesn't seem like a contradiction, but the difference for me is America. If some of their players aren't kind of firing, then they've got the deep enough squad to kind of mix it up. And I think I don't know. I think over the course of the season, that's why you're going to see America, already not playing well in the third or something in the table. I mean, they've not had a good season and the third, and I don't know. I just think. No, there's not a big difference, but I just feel like America have got more leeway with players being off form, whereas Chivas absolutely need young players to continue developing, because Vega has had games where you're like, yeah, he's a player in development. He is what he is. He's a young player developing. Even Godinho at times, you're like, well, this is great for Godinho. Big Clásicos. He's played some amazing games for Chivas, but he's a player in development. He's going to make mistakes, and we saw it in the Classico.
Oh, Chivas. We'll continue to have those conversations about Chivas and where they're going to go. Interesting to see that Cardoso still there. I mean, I don't think it's surprising, and we'll continue to kind of look at that. But I'm kind of on your end also, Cari, the fact that, you kind of want – I'm not even America or Chivas. To me, I don't go for either team. I've always said that, I like that Chivas does well because it's all Mexican, players, and hopefully it translates into the national team, right? To have that. But at the same time, it's Chivas, and we'll continue with that. We're kind of getting to the end of the hour, and I want to make sure I get some time in because this hasn't happened very often where Cari and I are both on, and actually never happened. And Leon is on top really quick. Not because it is my team and also Cari's, but because there's it's something that we had to talk about. Leon, since being in the first division, after getting relegated and after what happened, and hasn't had this great of a start ever in these since they got bumped up into Primera here in Liga MX. The best offense right now, the best defense with points, almost historic on the points, up there with in torneos cortos and how many points they've had. But Cari, to you really quick, what is, obviously there's some players and everyone's talking about that, but Nacho Ambriz, the players, what's happening in León? All of a sudden, a team that everyone's kind of looking at, and as far as maybe a surprise because of the way they started and now where they're at and kind of where they're going to go.
I think the addition of the players have changed a lot. I think if we look back at week 1 and week 2, they've had difficult games. The Regio teams, we tied against Tigres 2-2. We got tied against Monterrey 2-2. Third week, we went against Xolos. And I was there. I was at the game. And I was kind of mad because that was the only game that they have lost. Ever since then, they've been winning all the games from there. So I think it's just, I'm so excited. And you know what? That's the last week that Sambuesa was still playing and he got injured. And I think that game is where I really questioned, oh God, what are we gonna do? But we got an angel. We got an angel. We got Angel Mena, and he is just unbelievable. You like that? You like how he swept that in? Oh, he was unbelievable. 9 goals so far and 8 assists. I mean, this man is on fire. Also, the addition of JJ Macias, who, you know, some Chivas fans are still kind of mad about it, but I think he had a big role to fill in Boselli's shoes, and he's done great. He has 6 goals so far. He could have got maybe 1 or 2 more, but he ended up getting a game suspended and missed out on a game. But this Leon reminds me of a little bit of the Era Matosas. I think everybody kind of criticized Nacho for, oh, he's played very defensive. What's Leon going to do? But honestly, I think defensively, we've improved so much, and it's kind of crazy because defensively last season we were a joke. And this season it's like totally different. And what I liked about Ambris that he's kept a really consistent lineup. He's kept Cota. At center mid, we have Mosquera and Miguel Herrera. Miguel Herrera got injured. Ramino's right now. We got Navarro, who to me should have been getting called up, but that's another question. Tecillo is a new left back. And then we have Chapito Montes. Fabulous he's done this season. Ivan Rodriguez, which came in replacement for Pedro Aquino, because Pedro Aquino was in the midfield. He got injured. Ivan Rodriguez, another person to me should have been called up. Angel Mena Menezes came in kind of like half tournament last season and was horrible, but I think giving him the time, he's done great on that wing. And JJ Macias, I've mentioned before, and Joel Campo, who it's crazy because Matosas actually kind of gave him advice like, oh yeah, you know, you should go to Leon, blah, 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 kind of influenced him on his move. And the fans love him. He's been very dedicated to working hard and playing, and it showed on the field. So this Leon is in really, really great form. I think everybody's waiting for it to backfire on us. But I think Nacho has a really clear idea that we haven't won anything yet. And it's true. He's like, I don't care about statistics. We're just going to take it game by game. And it's true. So obviously we made a historic by getting 8 wins in a row. We've only conceded 6 goals, and we have a total of 25 goals scored. And putting Angel Mena, he has 17? He's participated in 17 of those 25 goals, which is beyond crazy.
Yeah, Almeida's stats are absolutely freakish. Like he scored 9 goals and 8 assists, created 25 chances. I mean, he's just like way beyond every other player in the league in goals plus assists. But you know, the other thing I find interesting, and Carrie touched on it then, was Ambris. You know, his reputation as at Necaxa, they were just such a difficult team to break down. Really well organized. You know, well coached team. It wasn't like they were a bad team. They were really well coached, but they weren't great to watch. And I think Leon fans, when Nacho Ambris came in, was like, this isn't the Leon style. And then you look at the stats now, because Leon for the last couple of years, they've been the team with the highest percentage or one of the teams with the higher percentage of long balls, least pass completion, and now the second to Tigres, in pass completion. So he's also like changed the style of play, and it's what they needed, because you get rid of Elias Hernandez, you get rid of Boselli, and basically that was the Leon's big trick. I mean, get the ball to Elias, fire it into Boselli, and there you go. It's you're gonna get results. So you're gonna do okay in a season. So really, I mean, apart from the players that Carrie mentioned there, Macias has been absolutely sensational as well. I mean, I think you've got to applaud Nacho Ambris, really, because I mean, what a turnaround! Nobody saw it coming, and I don't know. I don't think it's a fluke either. You know what I mean? I think that legitimately he's got something going on there.
When we're watching this and watching him play, I here and there on Twitter, I'm like, hey, look who's up, but I don't want to get excited, because as soon as I get excited as a fan and Leon, whatever, and I didn't get excited on those 2 wins on the Bicampeonato. I was like, nah, and that's how we won. So I'm going to stick to that. But I can't, when I'm watching the game, I'm like, even you mentioned it, right? Past Leon, Championship Leon even didn't have that great of a defense. I mean, when you're looking at how that team played, and you're seeing this now, I'm like, where is this coming from, and where was this at? So it kind of just catches you to go, they are that good, and it's a very fine team. Now comes the pressure of being on top. Now comes Liguilla is squaring away. So we'll see kind of where this Leon takes you. many of you mentioned it, Kari, many of the Chivas players kind of looking at it, or I think I saw some people on Twitter, okay, stop mentioning that kid. Yes, but that was us with Elias Hernandez and Cruz Azul.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that, that was Boselli leaving, and then you kind of left that. So I don't feel bad at all, because looking at it now, I'm like, hey, Elias, come back. What? Come back. See,
Oh, you know what's crazy? Sambuesa should be ready soon to come back. Which it's tough, because now it's like, who do you take off?
Yeah.
So I'm very excited, but we haven't won anything, but we can applaud on our consistency. And honestly,
that Leon chat's been quiet, by the way. It's going on.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Tom Marshall had to take off. He had a hair appointment. He said that's why he couldn't, let everybody know. So
focus on his new look.
Yeah. Said he's got to run. So I know we started a little late, guys. Kari, I want to thank you so much for jumping on, be a part of this Mexican soccer show. Thank you for all that you do. Expect some videos from you coming up. So if you guys see it, make sure you share them. Be a part of that Food Mex Nation family, and reply if you don't agree with Kari. What's your reply, and give us a hard time. It looks like everyone just agreed with Kari last year, but now let's see. I do have to say I'll continue to say she was one of the only few people that did have Mexico beating Germany. So
I told you, Wisa. I told you.
Thank you to everybody on the chat. Here's some new names. Thank you to everyone that's listening to us on iTunes right now. If it's Tuesday or Wednesday, we really, really appreciate it. And again, one more quick plug. Pancho Villa's Army, we're great friends of ours. If you have not been a part of Pancho Villa's Army and you go to games, or you're planning on going to games, definitely follow them. Amazing atmosphere. They have it's a lot of fun. And they're great friends of mine and into the show, Food Mex Nation, all about the English community, Liga MX, and also El Trieng. So be a part of that. Go to a game. They got great tickets down on the field, and be a great part of an amazing atmosphere. So a little quick plug for our friends at PVA with his great shirts, and our Patreon, guys. We'll tweet out the link. Please help us out if you can, if you're able to. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll start doing some great giveaways in a few weeks coming up. So, again, Kari, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll continue to talk, I'm sure, with Leon and what's happening. And then I can't wait to see the videos there you'll be doing here for Food Mex Nation. They're on El Tri. Thank you again.
Thank you, Iso. And dale, Leon.
There you go. Dale, Fiera. Talk to you guys next week in another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show.